Hello everyone and welcome back to Helen's Honest Baking. This video we're switching it up and kicking off our best brownie hunt. We're starting with the recipe that I grew up with, the Australian Women's Weekly's chocolate fudge brownie. While today I'm referring to the AWW cooking school book, this recipe has been mostly unchanged for years and it's appeared in print across many publications. Now that's confidence. Being an Australian recipe, instead of the walnuts that are commonly seen in brownie recipes, we're going to start by toasting 110 grams of macadamia nuts on a lined mini tray for 7 minutes, or roundabouts, at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll see those again later. To start, we're melting 150 grams of chopped unsalted butter, here, with 300 grams of chopped dark cooking chocolate, over a medium heat in a medium saucepan. The recipe calls for dark eating chocolate, which I totally forgot to buy, and it really amps up the chocolate gooiness if you go for the high quality stuff. So let's go melt up a storm. After some movie magic, my melted mix is now glossy and smooth and has cooled for 10 minutes. I'm transferring it to this bowl so you can see it better, but the magic of this recipe is that it can be done all in one saucepan. It's that simple. Next up, we're going to whisk in, well, just about everything else. Here's 330 grams of brown sugar going in at super speed until thoroughly mixed. Next, ta-da, 3 eggs. I'm again being a little dangerous with my cracking technique. I could probably be using the stand mixer, but since there's not much resistance in this batter and I'm not looking to create much lift, then this approach is fine. Here comes the 1 teaspoon of vanilla. By the way, I've still got the oven on after roasting the nuts, and I'm now preheating it to 320 degrees Fahrenheit. It's flour time, so I'm ditching the whisk and folding in the 100 grams of plain flour. The batter is starting to get that glossy thickness now that we need for the fudgy end result. If we keep them coming, in go 140 grams of dark choc chips and make some jazz hands in excitement. They'll add some nice pockets of texture to our brownies. And here is our most fascinating ingredient, half a cup or 120 grams of sour cream. By adding that extra fat content and creaminess, our brownies will gain moisture and richness, which is everything that we want. And keep mixing, people. And finally, here are our toasted macadamia nuts. I made the wrong call and chopped them before toasting, which made them cook unevenly and made me feel a bit stupid, so next time I'll roast them first and then chop to a finer size. The aroma really is good though. Next up, I've buttered up a brownie pan, which is typically 29 centimeters in length and 19 centimeters in width. I've used some baking paper to create a brownie sling that comes up a few centimeters higher on the sides of the pan for lifting everything out later. And finally, I've added a dusting of cocoa powder to the unlined sides, and that stuff just goes about everywhere, so we'll get a nice dusting on top of the brownies as well. All right, I've poured that mix in carefully. We can level it out a bit with a spatula, and then we're going to bake them in 2 stages. First for 40 minutes at 320 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we give it a tinfoil hat for 20 more minutes to stop the top from burning while we slow cook the chocolate insides. Skip forward, and here are our gorgeous brownies. Nice and cracked on top without looking sugary, but still a little moist on the inside when pulling away that chocolate skewer. It looks just like the picture, so I'll chalk that up to a baking win. So here we use that sling to lift out the goods, then we do the risky lift, pull, and splat to get the paper off. Boom! And we slice it up into squares with a reliable big knife. Here we go! These look perfect. Nice and fudgy, as advertised, and you can see the mix of batter, macadamias, and choc chip hunks nicely distributed. I'm honestly surprised our cameraman is actually giving this back to me. So yes, they look good. But how do they stack up? For appearance, I'm giving a 4.0. I actually don't know why, other than these are the first brownies we're testing, and they couldn't be perfect, right? Future Helen is mad, so instead we'll bump this up to a 4.5. For taste, I'm also bumping this up from a 4.0 to a 4.5. I keep changing things, but hey, we'll roll with it. The brownies improved upon cooling and were the perfect mix of fudgy, chocolatey, and not too sweet, and the nuts were a nice compliment, particularly the next day. For texture, I'm giving and sticking with a 4.0. The smooth, fudgy texture was great and avoided being sticky in the mouth too much, like other brownies can be. But I think the nuts were a bit big and distracting from the flavor, which could be easily corrected. And finally, for ease, I have reflected on this, and I'm going to stick with my 3.5. In the for category, we have that this was done quickly in one bowl with little effort and has measures in grams and nothing too odd to pick up from the store. In the against category, the steps could do with a little more explicit directions, including how to roast your nuts, and it refers to Choc Bits, which is a product name in Australia for chocolate chips. So that gives us a new total of 16.5. Based on our cookies so far, this is a high score. And while I'm adverse to setting a high benchmark out at the gate, I think the Australian Women's Weekly have really thrown down the gauntlet to be beaten. Thanks again for watching my recipe test of the Australian Women's Weekly chocolate fudge brownies as printed in the AWW Cooking School book, which is harder to find these days but is out there from a few online retailers. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Helen's Honest Baking, and we'll see you for our next installment of the Best Brownie Hunt. Bye!